Hi, everyone. My name's Catherine, and I'm extremely excited to be here with you all today. Every time I come to China, I'm extremely impressed with not only the dedication to execution, but truly the possibilities we have here in terms of the innovation that can come when we all work together on a global scale. And when I'm here today talking to you, and we're in this, makers and business section, I can't help but think about all of the makers that we've worked with over the years in ShopLocket, and really just their stories and the challenges and also the opportunities we see from them actually taking these ideas that maybe started in a garage or in a workshop and actually bringing those into the hands of makers. And now in this presentation, I really just want to take you through some of the lessons and some of those stories and really provide some inspiration to you all as you get out there and bring your products to market. And just as a little bit of background on ShopLocket, we work with thousands of makers as an e-commerce platform. What we let people do is actually embed their products on any website and start collecting pre-orders or orders all the way up until a full shopping cart. And in starting this company, I had come out of working with a hardware company that made a product actually quite similar to the Nest thermostat. And we realized that the people that get the most use out of our platform are really hardware makers. They're people that are coming off of crowdfunding platforms that oftentimes start with just a single SKU and have this dream of building up a collection of products over time. Now you can see here, this is some of the people that actually use the ShopLocket platform. It's people from all over the world that work with us really across boundaries, across time zones, right after their crowdfunding campaigns, or sometimes even earlier. You have the Nomaku, which actually went through Accelerator here in Shenzhen. You have something like the Glyph, which recently raised over 1.2 million on Kickstarter. Capture, which is an amazing audio recording device. And what these people really have in common is their passion for their products and actually getting those products to market. Now, what are we actually noticing? Basically, the world of consumer products is changing dramatically. Before, it was a world where only the big guys could get a product to market fast enough. But the truth is that it's the little guys that are changing things now. You can see that startups are truly pushing the boundaries for what's possible, whether it's in the kitchen or in wearables. It's the guy in their garage that creates this new prototype that might change Apple's development plan. And to me, that's incredibly exciting. This here is an example of a maker that actually used ShopLocket on our platform to start their company. The product is called Muse. And what Muse does, it's a brain-sensing headband. So it uses your brain waves to actually allow you to control the world around you. This product launched on Indiegogo, did almost $300,000 in sales, and then came on to ShopLocket, and has been able to raise over $6 million in venture funding due to being able to actually verify their idea with real consumers. Ariel's advice when we interviewed her was really that you need to plan ahead. She said she's been given a lot of advice, but the most important advice she would give to any maker is that really they can't underestimate the manufacturing process. It's always going to take much longer than you expected. This is another example. This is Lisa from Nomaku. Nomaku raised almost $700,000 on Kickstarter, and they did this in just 111 days. Their product is really changing home devices, and what Lisa has said is that in a startup, no one runs on money. Realistically, as well as you might do on Kickstarter, you really have a business to build at the end of the day. And it's truly the relationship you have with your team and the energy that you bring together that will truly move your startup forward. This here is Nimi. Nimi was started in Toronto, and what this product does is use your heart rate to actually detect your identity. And what they did when they launched their product, and they did it on their own website, was that they let people tweet what number they were in line. What this did is it truly spurred their community. It let people say, I'm number 10 in line for Nimi. I'm number 5,000 in line for Nimi. And really had people create this deep connection with the product. Carl's advice to makers is that Coming out of an academic background, what he noticed is that oftentimes they'd get so hell-bent on a single idea, and then the new opportunity would come on board. They looked at licensing, they looked at partnerships, and for years they were sort of scattered between these different channels. But what he realized is that as soon as they started focusing and they said, we're going to create a consumer device, they realized that focusing doesn't mean that you have to miss out on other opportunities. Really what it means is that you can actually capture the opportunity at hand, and you can move quickly to validate whether that's the idea you should do or move on to the next one, instead of being scattered among a lot of different directions. Finally, this is Aya from Littlebits, and Littlebits is actually manufactured by PCH, which we happily joined the PCH family just 2 months ago. And what Aya from Littlebits was able to do was pre-Kickstarter. To them, TED was their Kickstarter. It was their way of actually getting into the market. And what Aya says is that you can't really rush too much. You have to acknowledge that you have a physical product and that beta is oftentimes not good enough to get to market, and that it really requires more attention to detail and iteration. And I think we've been incredibly lucky over the past 2 days to really hear a lot of people talk about their maker stories and what has actually allowed them to iterate quickly, prototype, and most importantly, test their products to make sure that by the time it gets into that customer's hands, it's a reliable product. And luckily, there are lots of partners like ShopLocket, like PCH, that are out there that really want to help you get that product to market. Finally, this is Manisha, and Manisha was a recent interview that I did, and I love her story. What they did is their company is called Lumo Body Tech, and the first product was Lumo Back. And it was this sort of waistband that goes around your waist, and it detects when you're slouching. So if you're sitting at your chair, it'll sort of buzz so that you know that you're supposed to sit up straight. And they went through lots of different prototypes to figure out, okay, is this the right product? Is this the right design? And then they put out that first product, and it was good. I mean, it did incredibly well. It got into the App Store. People loved it. But a lot of people were like, you know, it's kind of clunky. It kind of goes around my waist. I'm not sure if I want to wear that under everything. And it got them thinking, is there a second version of this product that we could put out there that is more wearable wearable tech? And what they came up with was Lumo Lift. And Lumo Lift launched in January on Lumo Body Tech's website and did over $1.2 million in sales in a single month. And what they figured out is that they could get their device into a small little device that would go behind your shirt, and they'd have different design pendants that would actually be the magnet on top. And they partnered with designers, and they worked with their own designers to actually create attractive pins that you could choose from for the front of your shirt. So all of a sudden, they were truly blending fashion and technology. And as you might expect, Monisha's learning from all of this, and her thoughts on the future is that wearable technology is going to become more wearable. And I think we can all see that that's really the direction that things have to move to get things into the hands of consumers. Now, over the past day of talks, we've really seen a lot of people talk about we can't underestimate how hard it is to get a product to market. It's really, really hard. And that's very true. Don't underestimate any part of that. But as hard as it is to build a product, it's really, really, really hard to sell a product too. So the point of success, there might be one point of success when you crowdfund and another point of success when you actually ship the product. But what is the end game? How do you create sustainable distribution channels for your product once they're out in market? And an interesting fact, we get to collect some pretty interesting stats at ShopLocket, but one of the interesting ones that we got was actually from a study done by Cedars. And what they said is that on your crowdfunding campaign, in order to guarantee success, you actually have to hit 35% of your goal on day one. That's pretty intimidating. It's a 30 to 60-day campaign, and in order to guarantee success, you have to hit 35% of that goal on day one. Why is that? Well, it's the momentum of communities, being able to actually get the word out there, inspire people, have them tell their friends. That's what will guarantee that you actually get to your goal. And there's some interesting stats that can actually help you get there. The first one is that if you have a day-to-day marketing plan when you launch your product, you're 180% more likely to succeed. That's a pretty amazing stat. The second one, this one comes from Indiegogo, is that if you post 1 to 5 updates to your community every single week, it's likely that you'll double the contributions of people that didn't post updates. So you might think, oh, that's over-communication, I don't want to spam my users, but they want to hear from you. They've backed you, and they trust you, and they want to be able to spread that message. Now, the next one here is that 62% of campaigns that reach their goals actually have repeat funders. This might actually be a little bit counterintuitive. When you think about it, okay, someone's going to back my campaign once, why would they back it twice? But the truth is that sometimes it's your friends and family, they'll back it to help out, then all of a sudden you're succeeding, and they want to back it again. People love to be behind a success story. And the more that you engage them, the more likely they are to come back you at a higher level, maybe buy another product, buy a product for a friend. You're just increasing the sense of security that they have with you and the power that they feel of their personal brand when they talk about you as well. Finally, campaigns with teams raise 38% more. This is sort of an interesting stat. You know, the Lone Ranger is an interesting way to be as a maker, but when you're really bringing a consumer product out, you need a team. You need a team of people that can be on the crowdfunding campaign that can also help you build your business over time. But all of this, you know, it's interesting. It'll help you succeed, and there's really amazing blog posts, amazing resources that will get you past launch. But what has been my obsession lately is that's just launch. What about scale? What is going to really make these businesses succeed is their ability to succeed post-launch. And we've been looking into this quite a bit. You know, we see people with incredibly successful Kickstarters, but how long does it take them to actually match the sales that they did on Kickstarter over time when they're actually selling on their own website or selling through other distribution channels? We've seen that oftentimes for these types of startup companies, it can take anywhere from 6 months to over 2 years to match those sales again. And you as a maker have to understand that fact and be prepared from day one to look for alternative distribution channels and really plan your business like a business, not just a launch campaign. Now, all of that said, there's good news. Really, there are tons and tons of people out there that want to help you. There's an amazing ecosystem of people that have grown around this incredible startup movement. The next generation of makers is going to have more resources than ever before, and more systems set up to support them. There's, of course, the crowdfunding platforms, of course, the biggest being Indiegogo and Kickstarter, but there's dozens and dozens of crowdfunding platforms that are emerging for different sectors and different markets. There's accelerators that are actually geared specifically towards hardware, as well as some more general accelerators. There's, of course, Highway1, which comes out of PCH, and we'll hear from Markus a little bit later. There's Accelerator, there's Lemnos Labs, there's Bolt. All of these people are out there wanting to help your startup succeed. Now, I wanted to get a little bit more into where we really see this full ecosystem going, and how do you truly prepare a startup for scale? Now, this up here is PCH's view of the world and how we really think that you can fill in the gaps all the way from concept to a consumer's hand. It starts with the concept. It starts with developing the idea into a usable prototype. And we see Highway1 and incubators being the amazing way to actually take that idea and be with experts to get that product to a DFM-ready state. Then there's contract manufacturers that are actually able to do small batch manufacturing. At PCH, we have the PCH Accelerator, which is willing to work with small startups and give them, you know, world-class manufacturing in their hands so that they can actually manufacture their products at a world-class level and scale with PCH over time. Then there's validation and scale. This is where ShopLocket comes in. Are you going to be able to do pre-orders? Are you going to be able to sell your product over time? Can I find new distribution platforms? That's where we want to help, and that's where we're here to not only help you sell on your website, but to introduce you to the right partners and to also bring traffic to your site as well, and over time help you not just be a launch company, but a company that exists 5 years from now. So what does this next generation of innovators look like when they're actually able to take advantage of a full ecosystem of support? Now I want to invite up Markus, who actually helps run the Highway1 program with PCH. He's going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing from some of the startups that have these resources.
Thank you, Katherine. I'm Markus Rokitta. I'm the program manager of Highway1. Highway1 is a hardware startup incubator in the PCH family based in San Francisco. And what we do is we take on teams that have a working prototype, like most of you makers probably have, and we help those teams develop into a real company with a manufacturing-ready prototype and the funding that has to come along with that to actually afford the manufacturing process. In our first cohort, we had 11 companies covering a wide range of products from solar panel technology, robotics, a couple of medical devices, and obviously a range of consumer products. Out of those 11 companies, 9 graduated after the 4-month at demo day in January. 8 of those 9 raised significant funding. Together, they got over $12 million in funding already and counting. Just a few examples. Birdie is a company that makes a smart smoke detector combined with an air quality monitor. So they give you status updates of your air quality on your phone. They can send alerts. They can do automatic emergency calls if necessary. Ringly has taken miniaturization to an extreme. They make a ring that can notify you of any kind of events happening on your smartphone, like phone calls, emails coming in, while you can leave your phone in your purse. I've been told that's an important thing for women. And lastly, Drop is the first product of a company called Adaptix. It is a smart kitchen scale that connects to your phone or tablet, and it seamlessly guides you through the process of baking, for example, making cocktails. Really good for people like me who don't know much about baking. They came into the program with a very early stage rough prototype. They graduated with a machine prototype and a documentation pack that was basically ready to go straight to manufacturing. What they didn't anticipate was that at demo day, they got such good response and interest from venture capitalists that they had to change their flights. They had to stay an extra 2 weeks to talk to all the venture capital companies and get their funding sorted out, and I expect them to be ready for manufacturing anytime. One of my personal highlights was when these guys needed some more help with electronical engineering than we could provide at the time. They actually made a deal with another company in our cohort. They offered their own knowledge of industrial design, and in return they got the electrical engineering advice that they needed. So despite the very strict focus on engineering rigor and serious business development, we still had a community spirit that was basically what you would expect from a makerspace. So if you're interested in kickstarting your company in California, come talk to me after the talk and check out our website, highway1.io. Thank you very much, and back to Katherine.
Thank you, Markus. And I think, honestly, the interesting thing about all of these incubators is really what they're able to do for the startup. What we're doing is we're helping them move faster. We're helping them build better products than they could have done on their own. We're building brands. You're actually working with big companies to help these small guys that might not have had a brand before start thinking about it from day one. And we're also helping people solve real problems. So it's not just, hacking, which of course is fun, but to get it into a consumer's hand, they care about the utility. And the best part is that all of this is really just the beginning. What it means is that this is the start, and even from the conversations that I'm having, the things people are working on to fill in some of the gaps, either in manufacturing or in the ecosystem or in knowledge, is absolutely phenomenal across all global communities. And one thing that we're doing with ShopLocket and with PCH is actually trying to bring all of these resources together. So in about a week and a half, we're going to be launching a series of resources that will include interviews with founders and influencers, a list of all the hardware startups, all of the maker spaces, and all of the tools for hardware startups that we've indexed from across the web, along with weekly news and events about the entire community, Q&As with experts, and indexes of the best articles we've seen from all of the ecosystem partners. And through all of this, we're also going to be curating the best of the best and creating launch guides that startups can use to get themselves from concept to consumer. It's really about us all working together and putting it out there so that we can all ride the wave of this growing ecosystem. This is just a snapshot of some of the many interviews that we've done in the past, interviewing over 50 founders in the last year, and some of the influencer interviews that we're going to be doing over the course of the next 2 months, which we'll be releasing. So April 16th is when you can expect all of these resources to go live on the ShopLocket's site. So if you're curious or you know someone that would be an amazing interview or influencer to be part of this industry guide, please come talk to me. We're extremely excited to work with everyone in the space. And finally, the purpose of all of this for PCH and for ShopLocket is that we really want to make the only barrier to your ideas getting to market your passion. We want to make sure that all of the hard parts are served truly through the ecosystem and that we can get you to market. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone's time today.